Hi, everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking all about the 2022 AP US History free response questions. I'm John from Marco Learning. I want to show you what these free response questions look like. Then we're going to bring in Tom Richey, who is an expert in both AP US History and AP Euro. He's going to be guiding us through this. So this is the official exam that students took in 2022. Now, remember, of course, there are always multiple versions of the exam, but they release at least one every year that kind of breaks down just the free response questions. We have not seen the multiple choice questions addressed publicly, and we probably won't. That's just sort of how this goes. So again, you can access this full document inside of our the description of this video and on the College Board's website. We also have a document that breaks down our analysis of it, linking to this video, and also crucially some excerpts that Tom Richey has actually broken down for us. So if you've taken the AP US History exam, if you're a teacher or a student, we welcome you to our event today here. I encourage you, please, while we're going through the session, talk to us in the chat. What did you think was the hardest part of this exam? What were any surprises, things you felt like you weren't prepared for, right? There are certain turns of phrase or ideas that were things that are just part of the standard AP US History curriculum, and some things that had people scratching their heads. So I want to talk about this with Tom Richey. Tom, as many of you know, is not only helped millions of students prepare for AP US History, AP European History, and AP US Government, he's helped students beyond that in other subjects in college, people who just want to know about the Enlightenment or want to know about 20th century American history. He is your expert. So Tom, I'd like to invite you on. How are you doing this evening?
Hey there, John, and APUSH students and teachers watching this. It's nice to have the exam over with. Y'all got to excuse me if it looks like my cheeks are kind of red after the exam. I got outside, went and got me a sunburn. And so, this is what happens during the off season. So it's good to come back after getting a little bit too much sun and kind of wrap up, unpack this exam a little bit.
Great. And Tom, it's so great. I hope, actually, I want to hear from everyone at the end of this, what y'all are doing after your AP exam season, hopefully getting a little sunburn or doing something that's not DBQs. And I see a number of comments coming in already about responses about the DBQ. So it's going to be a really great chance for you to interact with Tom, to hear from him, his opinions. But if you're watching the recording of this afterwards, go ahead and post those comments right in the comment section. And if you like this video, press that like button, subscribe to our channel. We have tons of resources in more than a dozen AP exams. So Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you to guide us through the 2022 AP exams, and I'll chime in the chat with everyone else.
Okay, John, thanks for having me over here. Great to be here with Marco Learning. And if you have not subscribed to Marco Learning's YouTube channel, make sure you're doing that. If you're here, you're probably subscribed to the channel. Now, a few things here. One thing to note here, Hayden, you were expecting a DBQ prompt that actually was a 2019 LEQ prompt. Okay, so that was something that there was a 2019 APUSH LEQ prompt that had what you thought there. So let's go ahead. And Shreya, you thought that those first SAQs were tough. So I'm going to go into the video description and I'm going to click onto this link to Marco Learning's website. We've got a little article post here, and I'm going to walk you through how to see everything. We've got pretty much a one-stop shop. Now, I will tell you this is under construction. We are going to be adding some things here. You'll notice that we're going to put some things later on the DBQ. I'm going to add some more samples, and then I will eventually add some sample LEQ responses. That's something we're working on. So with that, we can go and we can download the official College Board stuff here. Okay, y'all. We need to make sure we got these links on the open a new tab. Okay. So as far as that goes, we're opening in new tab there. All right. So as far as this goes, here are the College Board's free response questions. Now, the first thing that I'm going to note here is when we look at this, one thing that I found very, very curious is the subject matter. Okay, check it out. The subject matter for the question one is the same as if we're going to go to AP US History practice exam and we go to the College Board's practice exam. What are we going to find here? Frederick Jackson Turner. historian, the significance of the frontier in American history. This shocked me, okay? So one thing that we want to note here is don't go into this. The College Board is giving us some hints here, because you don't want to think like, okay, they put the West, the American West, this is in the practice exam. So they would never ask a question about this on the actual exam. But then we look here and it is the exact same subject matter. And so we have here, the frontier and all of this, and it's the same thing. So the frontier is on the official practice exam and this year's exam. Now, another thing to think about too is just because the DBQ was in a certain era, it can come in the same era next time. So never think, oh, this can't be it. So that's one lesson we're learning here. Now, the APUSH SAQ items, if you click on here, it will, well, let's, okay, and I need to, once again, just get these. Let's see, I'm gonna have to right click and open it in a new tab. Okay, so as far as that goes, let me tell you now, I don't have this for all of them, but one thing that when I'm writing SAQ responses, you'll see that I sometimes use color codes. And so what I do here on some of these responses to kind of give you a picture of where I'm going with this is that the blue part, if it were only the blue part, the answer would be insufficient. The purple, I say it's likely sufficient, okay, that yeah, this should work. But I always train students to go above and beyond, okay? So what I do here is I think, why stop at what you think is likely sufficient? So what I do here is think about, okay, I go to this part that I think that this is likely sufficient, and then I'll add another sentence that gets even more detailed. Okay, so when we think about this, and this is always in the same, in the same kind of, thing, in the same kind of format, that you have to think about what is the difference in their interpretations. Now, I thought that this was pretty basic. Like this was an easier one to answer the question A. It was very, I found this very easy to pull apart there to see, okay, farmers and then wage workers. Okay, so this I found pretty easy. And then you will find the B and the C, which are going to be, what is a piece of specific evidence that supports the first one? What is a piece of specific evidence that supports the second one? So usually the format that I use there is thinking in terms of one historical development that would support Billington's interpretation would be the Homestead Act. Okay, now with that, we've got to explain. We can't just identify or, and even with this, which was passed during the Civil War in order to encourage farmers to move west into states like Kansas and Nebraska. Now, the thing is, it says explain, so I would not stop here in the purple. I would keep going. The Homestead Act gave 160-acre homesteads to Americans who were willing to move west and farm. Over 600,000 families took advantage of this opportunity, including exodusters, former slaves who moved to Kansas from the South. Now, with that, you don't need all of this to get credit, but I think it's always important because a lot of y'all are going to be going on to take another AP history exam. Some of y'all may have taken your last one. If so, congratulations. So this tends to be the format that I use there. Now, with that, then we see here that this is something. Now, one thing that I saw in the comments is somebody expected this to be about the Civil War and slavery, like the DDQ, was expecting a DDQ to be something about the Civil War. Now, one thing I will note is this year's APUSH exam, I believe that this would be the first exam that was written after the summer of 2020. And I think you can definitely see that there is a notable presence of Black Americans, Native Americans, women, where you see here, this is something about free people of color in Ohio. Okay, so as far as that goes, that one thing that's very, very important to note here is this is not a visual source. So let me go into how this works. So every one of the APUSH exams for the last several years, and APUSH, AP Euro, in both of those subjects, the SAQ2 has been a visual source. But when we look at the course and exam description, what we're going to see there is that it says primary source analysis. Okay, so one thing that they're firing their warning shot here. I was thinking something like this was coming. Okay, but this is something that they're letting us know, hey, we are reserving the right to use print sources. We do not have to use visual sources for this. Now, given that they've used visual sources for every year that they've had this exam, I think that we're going to see visual sources more often than not. But what we're going to note here, any teachers that are watching and looking at this exam, that we're noting that it doesn't have to be visual. This is a primary source analysis, and it can be visual or print. Now, one thing that we'll note as well is the only visual source in the DBQ is a map. Okay, so that's another thing that we're like the visual source here is a map. And so it's a map and then 6 documents. Okay, so with that, we see that a map can be used as well. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at 3 and 4. Let me go ahead and see from y'all in the chat which ones picked 3 and which ones picked 4. Okay, so, you know, answer whether you would have picked 3, which is from the first half of the course, or whether you would have picked 4, the second half of the course. So let's go ahead and take a look there and what we're seeing there. How many of you picked 3? Just put 3 if you picked 3, and then 4 if you if you picked 4. So let me kind of see what we're getting on the chat here. So 3 and 4. Okay, yeah. So let's see. KNJ file. You like the Darth Revan wallpaper. I'm glad you like that. So with that, let's see how many. Okay, so we've got 4, 3, 4. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, so 4 looks like so far a predominance of 4s. Okay, so with some people, okay, we got Shreya over there with 3. Okay, Nayeli with 3. All right, so Heath and Emily picking 4 there. All right, Noah with 3. All right, so with that, now it's starting to look a little more balanced. Okay, so that's something. I don't think that there was necessarily any, one that was any better than the other one. I think that we're seeing that of those of you watching tonight, that there's a pretty good balance of that. Okay, so as far as that goes, when we look at 2, we just the point of view of the excerpt, we saw that. And then B, now what I've done for some of them is I've put 2 separate answers. Okay, so there's a sample response, and then here is another sample response. Okay, so what I did here, I put the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. Then I put something about the Constitution as originally written and the 3/5 compromise. So one similarity in how, let's see here. Oh, oops, that was, this is part 2. So a historical event or development between 1783 and 1854. And then we go 1854 to 1877. So with that, 1854 being the year of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. So this is like Kansas-Nebraska Act through the end of Reconstruction. This is the Treaty of Paris, 1783, ending the American Revolutionary War through the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Okay, and so from there, we see here, Native American society and then reform movement. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put the SAQ aside. Y'all know how to get to those. And as we go through here, so you can click on that, going back to the same article from Marco Learning's website, we can see here the response to the Apush Dbq. Okay, so I've put a sample response online here. Now, I plan to add some responses that will get different levels of credit. This is basically the one that I sat down and wrote, okay, that I gave myself an hour to see what I could put up, there. And so what I ended up doing is, in order to use all 7 of the documents, I said, I made one group that was based on rugged individualism, and I tied them together with westward expansion, okay, because on the property qualification map, we notice here, and this is something that you should have already been aware of if you were on your way to making a 4 or a 5, you knew that the farther west you go, the less likely you were to see property requirements. And so if you get off the eastern seaboard, you see here only Arkansas ever had property requirements. Now, one thing that's really interesting here is South Carolina never had property requirements, and they continued to not have direct election of presidential electors through the Civil War. So that was surprising. My home state of South Carolina never had a property requirement for voting. And so, but we see here that in the West, all right, so that's something that's important there. And so with that, I made that something where I noted how the giving up of property qualifications was partly a product of westward expansion. Then, of course, Emerson, the transcendentalist, okay? Transcendentalists were basically hyper-individualists. Henry David Thoreau was like, hey, the Mexican-American War is wrong. Slavery is wrong. The United States government supports both of these things. Ergo, I will not pay my taxes, okay? And now somebody was saying that they believe that Emerson paid his taxes for him so he wouldn't go to jail. But the thing is, this is something that the, transcendentalism is a hyper individualist, self-reliant, don't tell me what to do, let me run my own life kind of thing. And so then we go to outside evidence, the Louisiana Purchase. Okay, so I basically, tied in the concepts of rugged individualism and westward expansion. And I use these to say that there is a national identity being developed. Now, then I noted that the War of 1812 was a nationalist moment, but it was fleeting. Okay, so I note here Congress, then Madison's annual message, and then I actually give some historical context that Madison vetoed a bill which was very similar to what he was asking for. So then Jackson's veto. So I note here that, okay, while the War of 1812 may have looked like this, that it wasn't. And then I noted here, and this is where I'm saying that you can definitely tell that this exam, that the people who wrote this exam, they were mindful of the summer of 2020, okay? That of the documents, of the 7 documents and only 6 print documents, you've got 3 that are focusing on marginalized groups, okay? So that's something that I think is important to note here, that we see that there are 3 documents focusing on marginalized groups. And then I said there that it excluded women and ethnic minorities. Now, again, this is my essay. I would not expect, this is not a bare minimum for a 7. This is what I wrote. Now, I've seen students write essays of this caliber, okay? Like, I mean, there are usually any given year, there are a few of my students that when I'm writing a DBQ with them, I'm hoping that my DBQ is better than this student and that student, okay? That happens to me. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the Leq prompts, okay? So now 2, 3, and 4. Y'all go ahead and y'all put in the chat, did you pick 2, 3, or 4? 2 was the relative importance of causes of population movement to colonial British America in the period 1607 to 1754. That's 2. 3, evaluate the relative importance of causes of the rise of industrial capitalism in the United States in the period from 1865 to 1900. Now, I actually, this is actually something too, we want to note here that this format, 2, 3, and 4, this format has actually in the past been used for DBQs, but they gave us a warning shot last year. They used this for LEQ3 and only LEQ3. So we notice here that they've actually, got a new phrasing, okay, of this. Evaluate the relative importance of causes. So with that, when we go back to the 2019 exam, and it said something about, the relative importance of slavery, how much did it lead to the Civil War? Now, what would happen if that question were here? It would say, evaluate the relative importance of different causes of the American Civil War. Now, this is something I actually did a question that was very similar to this, okay? So this one, rise of industrial capitalism, this could be, support of the U.S. government. This could be technological innovations. This could be entrepreneurship. This could be immigration. There are several different things here. So 3, I could see, I could see a path here. Now, so far, I'm liking 2 better. And then 4, evaluate the relative importance of causes of internal migration within the United States in the period from 1900 to 1970. Now, I think if you know your internal migrations, this one's going to be very easy. But unless you're like up to speed with the Great Migration of Black Americans during World War I, the Sun Belt migration after World War II, those are going to be the 2 big internal migrations between 1900 and 1970. And so that's something that, you know, I don't think that a lot of people are going to pick that. Let me go back. I would not be surprised if 80% of people picked SAQ2 on colonial America. Let's see what we did here. Actually, I see here we've got a pretty, you know, y'all, we've got 2 2s, we've got 3 4s, and 1 3. Okay, so some of y'all did pick 4 on the internal migrations. All right, so as far as that goes, let's go ahead and see if we've got anything, any questions or anything like that. Does the Dred Scott decision work? Emily's asking here, does the Dred Scott decision work for SAQ 2B? Okay, or not 2B. All right, I know that wasn't that funny. All right, so let's see. SAQ 2B, does the Dred Scott decision work for that? Okay, so 2B. Now, it's going to depend, okay? Our issue there is how strict they're going to be on the 1854, okay? And I think, Emily, since we see 1854 on both of, you know, on B and C, I don't anticipate that the College Board readers are going to say that, I don't anticipate that they're going to be super strict and say that was 1857, not 1854. My gut feeling tells me that they're going to be saying, all right, they're going to be telling SAQ readers, cut people a little slack, okay? So things like the Brooks Sumner incident, the Dred Scott decision, while technically they come after John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. Technically, they come after 1854, but given that it's so rigid in the question, I would think that we're going to see that the readers are told to give, you know, 1850s. Now, they may be told only give credit for one thing from the 1850s. That could be a possibility, or that they say, okay, only one thing from the 1850s, and then we'll go from, you know, from there. So I think it's conceivable, but I can't guarantee it. That would be one thing that technically no, but I think that that's going to be an exception there. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make sure, you know, thank y'all for tuning into this, and make sure that you're taking a look. If you want to see how I solve the DBQ or my sample responses for SAQs, they're posted there. And it was good being able to chat with you. And just as Marco is telling us, if you found this to be helpful or engaging, be sure to click that like button. I tell you what, I've seen a few people do that. I just clicked it myself. Okay, oh, there we go. And I know that Ryan Patel just clicked that like button. Okay, so with that, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you continue to follow Marco Learning, not only on YouTube, but on Instagram. Now, I'm on Instagram as well, at Tom Richey. But make sure, because Marco Learning is providing support for a plethora of AP exams. So odds are, unless you're graduating, you don't have any more AP exams, then Marco Learning is going to be here to help you. Now, remember, I personally provide support for AP US Government and Politics. So with that,